Introducing Oakley Meta Vanguard, the new performance AI glasses designed for athletes. With hands-free capture on an action-ready ultra-wide camera, powerful open-ear speakers, and built-in Meta AI that syncs with your Garmin devices for real-time insights while you train. Take your performance to the next level with Oakley Meta Vanguard. Athletic intelligence is here. Learn more on meta.com.
Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
Welcome along to Mutchy Denno with me, Johnny Phillips. It's a brand new podcast, Wolves related, but not exclusively tied to the Wanderers. So let's introduce the crew. First up, Andy Mutch, hello.
Hi, Johnny.
And Robbie Dennison.
All right, Johnny, you okay?
Very good. Two Wolves legends, two Wolves Hall of Famers who played a crucial part bringing us back from the abyss and all that. Robbie, let's start with you. Why have we decided to do this podcast?
Well, I think Johnny, Mutchy, you know, we've all got an affinity with football, really, haven't we? We've loved it from obviously a young age, growing up as kids, watching it. We were lucky enough, Mutchy and myself, to play it at a good level, so we've got a bit of dressing room banter to go along with it. So, yeah, just, you know, ever since we stopped playing as well, I've followed Wolves since all that time, become a fan of it. So it's just a case of having affiliation again with fans, having a bit of crack with the fans and seeing where it goes to.
Mutchy, you're the obvious man to do it with Robbie because you've stayed good mates, haven't you, down the years?
Oh, we've been pals since day one, since we first ever met. It's been a great relationship. We've been on holiday together. We've had the crack. We've had a few beers together. We've played a few games of football, all that jazz. So, you know, it's been brilliant, you know. And going back to what you're saying about getting together to do the podcast, we've done a few things, me and Robbie, in the past, and they've always been well received. Robbie just happened to chat to me a while ago and said, do you think it might be a good idea we do one? Not really thought about it too much, and we thought, yeah, why not? We'll give it a go, and we'll get back involved with the fans again and have a few chats with them and have the crack, and hopefully we'll all enjoy it.
That's a good point, that, because a lot came from that night we did with Bully back in May at Wolfram Hall, part of the Civic, when there was about 800 fans in there, and we got a load of the old players back together, and you two were bouncing off each other. It was brilliant. I mean, Denno, it was class.
Somebody said we're bouncing off of the walls.
You might have been bouncing off the walls. It was a big foundation fundraiser. There were about 800 fans in the room. It flowed, didn't it? And it was just so nice for you to be back in touch with them again.
Also, you know, fans, but also the players that came that night as well. It's always been the same. Whenever you pick up with players again, you might not have seen them for 15, 20 years or whatever it's been, but you go back to the days of when you played together. The crack was good. The stories that were told that night was fantastic, you know, and the hall was full. So people come to enjoy the time that we had at the club. As much as he says, we love talking about it. I'm still being asked about it now, you know, with what happened in those days and stuff like that. And that's 25, 30 years ago.
You two were propped up in the bar when we were trying to get the thing started. But there's a very, very famous fan from back in the day, from the late 80s, who leaned through the dressing room window, grabbed Bully and said, "Come on, me babies." Yeah. And that sort of summed up what the fans thought of Wolves in those days. Sure enough, you were there at the bar, propped up with him before the event.
Oh, that was brilliant. It was funny because when we actually turned up at the event at the Civic Hall, we saw him queuing up outside. And I couldn't believe I'd seen him because I personally hadn't seen him for a long time, 20, 25 years at least. And he'd hardly changed. The only difference was his hair was a bit greyer, but he was still as keen as hell, you know. And when we brought him up on stage at the end, that was brilliant for all the lads that were involved with him because of the type of supporter he was. But it was also a great moment for himself, you know, to be recognised as an individual fan who's supported the club on a tremendous level for a long, long time.
Yeah, that was the point, wasn't it, with that fan, really? Because I think, speaking as a fan, and your team was my team through childhood. I was a child of the 80s, and that fan summed it up really, because we'd had such a rotten time in the early 1980s. And then it felt like the best days ever when Wolves were going up the divisions from Division 4, Division 3. And that fan who just put his head through the dressing room window, I think it might have been after the Sherpa Van Trophy semi-final against Notts County. I might be wrong, but I think it was. And it just sort of summed up what we all felt. It was like all of a sudden we'd reconnected with our team that had been in the mire, and it just felt like we were back. And it was only Division 3.
Yeah,
Division 4,
it was
Division
Division 4 at the time,
Division 4, yeah.
But whenever I first joined, Mutchy was there before me, so the crowds were probably even worse than what I got to see whenever I first joined. But the crowds whenever I first joined were sort of 9,000-10,000. But we just started to hit a little bit of a run at the end of the old 4th Division season when I joined with only about 10 games to go. But you could see the growth in the fans at that time, and how they were taken to the side, who started winning games. I remember going to Halifax on a Tuesday night, and it was the worst night ever, rain coming down, and there must have been 3,000 or 4,000 Wolves fans at the game. And I'm thinking, this is absolutely mad. I think we won 4-2, and Mutchy might have scored one of them. But just the one. But we got the other 3, I think.
Carlsberg.
But the thing was, you could just see the growth in where the club had been to and was actually coming back from, because it was they were just taking over the away games. Everywhere we went, it was like a home game. So the fans at that time helped everything grow and helped everything get into place again. That really.
Yeah, I suppose, Robbie, what you're saying, when the club's dead and buried, which it was owned by whoever owned it. There's no point going into that. And when I first played, there was 3,500 on the, and I played with Jeff Palmer actually, who was part of a real legend 70s side, and I was amazed that I was actually on the pitch with him. Obviously, he retired that season, but 3,500 fans at Wolves, and I was so shocked because as a kid, Granada Reports used to follow Wolves, and I used to see all the top players who I'm fortunate enough to be friends with now, the likes of Willie Carr and Kenny Ibbett and Steve Daly and that. And so it's just frightening where they actually got to. And obviously the supporters think that the club's is going to go into extinction. So I think really there's been lots of great sides since we finished playing and we've got into the Premier League, etc., etc. But our era is always fondly remembered because we were the lads that sort of peeled them up off the floor type of thing, and started to put a bit of pride back into the town. A fantastic era for myself and Robbie to be involved in and to be well remembered.
We should say as well, we're bringing it fully retro because we're here at Manda House recording this podcast, part of the Manda Centre. And of course, Manda's Paint and Ink. We'll go into that with the big sponsors of Wolves during a couple of those seasons. But we need to thank WCRFM, Wolverhampton Community Radio, because they've been great. Steve and Jack looking after us today. Recording this podcast. The Manda Centre was around when you were here, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously,
yeah.
Well,
we're talking about the 60s here now.
we went shopping twice a year usually, and we always come to the Manda Centre. No.
Love
but when we were sponsored, and they had the Manda Centre on the shirt, it was all about the paint,
Manda's
was it? No,
Paint and Ink, yeah.
It kept peeling off, and I thought, what an advertisement that is. I mean, I suppose that's the level that the club had got to at that time. Gladly, it's changed a lot since.
We'll do an episode on sponsorships. We should do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go back to the beginning then, because you alluded to it then, Mutchy. You came during the Batty era. The Batties ran the club between 82 and 86. Yeah. They didn't cover themselves in glory, and the club went bust twice. But how did you end up here? Because you played non-league, weren't you, at Southport?
I was. Oh Christ! Ironically, I was playing in the same league as Chorley played in, which is a bit of a swear word, isn't it, really? So it was more embarrassing for me. I've never really sort of lent that to people before, but the fact I played against these lads week in, week out. But we happened to play Kidderminster in an FA Trophy game when they were a really good side. They had a lad called Kim Casey up front and a lad called Davis, I think his name was, and they were a very good strike force. And we managed to draw with them. And then we had the replay here at Kidderminster, and Wolves manager at the time, Sammy Chapman, was at the game. And he's seen enough. We got beat 5-1. We got absolutely battered. It was a frozen pitch. I didn't really do a lot, to be honest. I did actually score. And afterwards, the rumours that Wolves were coming in for me. They paid a huge fee. Honestly, God, I couldn't believe it. Right, I think it was £8,000 plus 2,000 add-ons. Like they do add-ons now. Bloody brilliant, right? So, and I remember trying to negotiate with Sammy Chapman to get more money, and you sort of haven't got a clue really, And he said, "Take it or leave it," and I'm going, "Oh, right." So, you're obviously going to take it because you've had a lot of knockbacks. Whatever happens, we all start somewhere. Robbie started in non-league in Ireland at one stage. You know, you get an opportunity, and we had a similar path that way. Maybe that's why we banged our heads together when we met each other and that, and decided we'd have a few pints of Guinness together and stuff. You know, and it was marvellous times. Forever grateful for Sammy for signing me, but then we went through a few managers, Brian Little for a short period, until Graham Turner came in, and obviously the ownership was the most important thing, which actually gave the club the opportunity to develop and invest in the team, as opposed to trying to pay the washing bills and stuff like that, which was going on. You know what I mean? And the cleaners that never turned up, if you know what I mean.
And so when you were at Southport, were you working? Did you have a job as well?
I was, yeah. I worked for a refrigeration company, actually. I used to sort of deliver stuff, do warehouse stuff and all jazz like that. So we've all got to do something for work, haven't we?
That's
I mean,
brilliant.
So it was just
I thought you were working as a waitress in the cocktail bar, Mutchy.
when I met Joe. Yeah, so yeah, but they were great times, and that's why you take the opportunity, because you're doing what you're doing. I suppose if I was doing a job where I could say I was building for a massive future, where I was going to be a solicitor or this, that, or the other, that might have been a different case. Because I think, actually, ironically, I think that Kim Casey had a great job, and they were trying to get him into league football, but he didn't, because he was on a good path with his working life. So opportunity knocks, and I suppose everybody, all young lads want to be footballers, don't they? I think the turning point is people get knocked back and they can't recover from it. They get released from clubs. I was released from Everton, and it really does knock you back. But you've just got to pick yourself up and go again. And with that, you need a little bit of luck. And I had the luck to be signed, and I had the luck to be able to get in the team, because we were that poor. You got more opportunity than you used to get, and that gave me an opportunity to stamp my mark. If I'd have gone to another club, I might have played 4 or 5 games and then not got a sniff for a year, and then all of a sudden you're behind the 8 ball. So a little bit of luck and a little bit of hard work along the way. Don't go amiss, does it?
No, it's brilliant, Mutchy, because you're dead right about that. About perhaps you did need a club that was in such dire straits to get that chance, and give you a break in pro football. Denno, back in Ireland, were you playing part-time football to start with?
I was playing part-time Irish League for Glenavon. I started playing when I was 16, just turned 17, playing against men who were actually just kicking lumps out of me every week. But it was a great sort of learning curve with the whole lot, really, because it didn't teach you to fight with people, really, but it taught you how to know when you were going to be kicked and how to, prepare yourself for the like of that. So I was just a kid amongst men. I got to 22, still in the Irish League, late to come across. Got a bit of luck, really. I was actually working in a factory in Lurgan, doing the wages. Got a bit of luck when I was 22. There was a testimonial game at Glenavon. Jimmy Nicholl, who was playing for West Brom at the time, came across. He played in the game. I did okay. Jimmy Nicholl went back to Johnny Giles, who was manager at the time, West Brom, and says, bring him over for pre-season, have a look at him. So at 3 weeks trial at West Brom, I think it was 85 then, they signed me up September 85, and then I had a year and a half there before I came across the Wolves, which is March 87. Didn't really get started at the Albion. They're a great club, the Albion, at that time. Started off in the old First Division. I played against Liverpool, played against Man United away. So I had decent games, got a bit of experience.
You played in those ones, yeah?
I did, yeah.
Oh, excellent.
We lost 2-1 at home to Liverpool, and Douglas and Rush scored the 2 goals, mates. So I got a bit of experience, but not enough really to say that I'd really got a foothold in actually playing any games.
Were you nets that day, Rob, when 2-1?
Oh, so most of the time.
So that's a big deal. Giving up First Division West Brom for 4th Division Wolves.
It wasn't really at the time, John. Honestly, because a bit like what Mutchy said, I wasn't playing enough games.
Right.
I felt as if I just got off the boat from Ireland. I didn't want to go back to Ireland. The Ron Saunders actually tried to sell me back to Northern Ireland, the league. I think Portadown were in, Linfield were in, 15 grand or whatever he's going to do. And he was trying to push me back, but I just said no, I didn't want to go, because I wanted to stay and prove myself over here. It'd take me a while to get over here. At 22, you don't get another opportunity really if you go back again, so you're not getting another opportunity. So I did have got a break, came across to Wolves 87, signed. Purely didn't know a lot about Wolverhampton, to tell you the truth. I came out of the meeting with Ron Saunders when he said to me,
at West Brom, he's the West Brom manager.
Thanks for coming.
But he was always trying to get a laugh at people's expense. And this was March 87, deadline day. Right. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I think it goes to 5 o'clock. In those days, it went to 5 o'clock. So he says to me, Wednesbury want to speak to you, and I said, who's Sheffield Wednesbury? Right, and honestly, I started laughing, and he didn't. Right, he's quite a.
So I'm going.
He was quite a straight person, you know what I mean? And he just looked at me and he says, Wolves want to speak to you. Get over there now and don't come back. Right.
Oh, really?
So I went, okay. So I came out of that meeting, and Carlton Palmer, who went on to play for England, Carlton was sitting outside because he was a bit nosy that way. He wanted to find out what was going on in the meeting. So Carlton's sitting outside, and I says, Carlton, I have to get to Wolverhampton now. They want to have a chat with us. I says, how do I get to Wolverhampton? I honestly didn't know how I was going to get to Wolverhampton, where it was in relation to where I needed to go to. And he says, come on, I'll take you across. So he took me across. Similar to Mutchy, had a 10-minute conversation to settle on terms, tried to get an extra 50 quid a week or whatever it was, sorted it all out, just wanted to play the game, and it was the best thing I ever did.
Brilliant. So did you have an agent?
No.
Same with you, Mutchy, no agent.
Agent,
So
no.
you're there.
You couldn't afford to give 10%
Who are they?
away to anybody.
Hey, well, you can't earn 10% of nothing, can you? You know what I mean? So what's the point? You know.
How do you negotiate your deal as pretty? I know you weren't exactly kids, but you weren't far off it.
No,
how did you do that?
Do you know what? From what how I was concerned, to give me a little bit on the basic from because I come over from non-league Northern Ireland, didn't get much of a deal with regards to massive money at the Albion. Added a little bit onto what I was on back home, and then went to Wolves. They offered me a little bit more on the basic. I think I might have got a little bit of a sign-on fee as well. But Johnny, honestly, at that time, I wanted to play football.
Yeah,
I wanted to get started. I wanted to play games. Much he said about, it was a level that I felt I could actually get games then. Because if they're bringing someone in Dayline Day, you're going to get games initially, aren't you? So that's how I felt about it. The money at that time wasn't the issue. It really wasn't. So that's how we kicked it off then.
That's great. That.
Yeah, it's like anything, Robin. You get what you're given because you've proved yourself in no shape or form. What you want is games to be able to get the experience and prove yourself. But obviously, as time goes on and you start to be recognised, and then you start to get the respect of your fellow colleagues, your manager, your supporters, and stuff like that, and you become a fixture and fitting at the club, if you know what I mean. That's when you can actually speak to the manager and you're a bit wiser and you've got a bit of a springboard to say, hey, listen, I'm worth this, that or the other. Then we could do that. I used to do that quite a lot. Robbie never did it. He just said, yes, Gaffer, I'll take that, he'd say. And that's it. What was quite significant as I was finishing playing, as Robbie was, right, there was guys who were playing the reserves at clubs, right, you don't have to mention any name, and the signing for clubs, right, getting £1 million for 3 years, over 3-year contract, right, which is buttons now compared to what's going on now. But then you used to think it was unbelievable, and they'd hardly played a first team game. And that's how it used to happen. And then they wonder why the clubs end up sacking managers because the team aren't doing well and they've been signing players, giving them loads of money who've got no first team experience whatsoever. And what Graham Turner did at Wolves, he gave people opportunity because he had to, right, number one. And number two, he brought players in that he recognised would help the squad and help the team. It was more the team, really, because we only had about 11, 12 players at one stage. You weren't allowed to be unfit. You'd play with 3/4 zones, twisted ankle, anything. You're just out on the pitch. That's how it rolled, So those were the. I'm not saying they were the real days. They were the days, and you just dealt with that at the time because that's all you knew. People talk a lot now about the finances involved in the club and all this. Well, good luck to all of them, in my eyes. Right. The only thing I'm jealous about is the pitches are marvellous.
Yeah.
You look at them and you go, wow, and the training grounds are exactly the same. No excuses. Gives you every opportunity. When we crossed it behind the goal, sometimes when it just come out of the mud patch, you could get it right. Sometimes they cross it behind the goal now and you look and you go, have they done that? Because it's like a billiard table, Don't get me wrong. It's easy sitting on the couch and watching it on the telly, of course.
It's a good point you make about not knowing any difference, and that's why you sort of made a go of it and you sort of embrace the surroundings. I remember chatting to Derek Ryan once. Do you remember Dodge? He was
Dodgy, yeah.
Another Irish player. He didn't quite make it at Wolves.
He's with me.
Was
at Wolves, yeah, Dodgy, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. He came over to Wolves, but it never quite took off for him. And he was here in the really bad days, so he was here a bit earlier, maybe 80, 84, 83. And he always said, I said to him, what was it like, this shambolic club as it was then, an absolute state, borrowing training gear, nowhere to train, public parks, the rest of it. And he says, well, I never looked at it like that because I didn't know any difference.
Yeah.
So I had nothing to compare it to. So it was fine, and we just got on with it. And I get there's a sense with that, Denno, that I'm not saying you came to Wolves and thought everything's hunky-dory because they were in the fourth division, but there was a sense amongst the players, well, this is fine, we can get on with this.
Well, do you know what? Obviously, the Northern Ireland scenario prepared me for anything, really, because the pitches, there wasn't a lot of money in the game over there. The pitches, the changing rooms weren't of the best quality. So whenever I did go to Wolves, the changing rooms, I wasn't bothered about it at all because I'd already seen worse and had already played it in worse. Got changed in worse back at home, so that prepared me for what was coming then. The Albion was a little bit different because every day your training kit was set out and you went in, get changed, and then they took it off you and washed it and all that. And I've walked into Wolves the first day training, and I think it was Mrs. Clamp, the washing up lady, or the laundry lady. She came in with a basket full of, well, I didn't know what it was full of, to tell you the truth. Yeah. And the lads just walked across. This is my first day. I'm sitting. I've got a slip, a pair of boots, and a towel with me, right? And the boys just emptied it out on the floor, and they all wrestled around trying to get the training kit. And I realised then I was training kit for the lads to go out and train in, and I didn't know that. So I'm sitting. I've still only got a slip and a pair of boots. How am I going to train? So then Paul Darby comes out of the physio's room, Darbs, and he's got a brand new bright red tracksuit, right? Still in the wrapper, right? And he says, you can use this. And I've took it out of the wrapper, put this brand new bright red tracksuit. And whenever you have your first day at any club, you want to go and meet the lads and have the crack with the lads, don't you? But that day, or you just want to get your head down, get the first day over, but I'm there training with a bright red tracksuit on, you know what I mean?
That's the only time you stood out for Wolves. I'm telling you.
No, there's another time. I'm sure there's another time.
No, there
Think
was.
about it. We'll talk about it.
When that Cohen tackled you in training once, yeah, maybe.
But it was. But then, so I was preferred for anything as well. It's the same as Derek Ryan. You know what I mean? Nothing fazed me. The football side of things was the biggest issue for me. Really playing games with a fantastic group of lads to do it with as well. Like Mutchy and Keith Downing was there, Tomo and Bully, and we had a real good tight knit group who worked hard for each other, and that's why we got the initial success and pushed on with it.
And when you look at that group, there was players like yourselves who wanted to play. Bully, another one, Tomo, both of them left Albion because they weren't getting games. There was certainly, I suppose you could look at Keith Downing as well, not household name by any stretch. Was that the key to it, do you feel? The reason perhaps you got on with each other as well as you did was that you were all in a bit of a similar boat.
They were all exactly the same. All didn't play enough games and all had the hunger to want to do well. All been released from clubs for different reasons. Phil Robinson's another one. Floyd Street left Derby County. All these. The only person, ironically, we're talking about people moving from West Brom to Wolves, which was the hardest move ever, was Ali Robertson.
Yeah.
18 years in the First Division. And he comes to Wolves as a sort of assistant coach manager to Brian Little. Brian was relieved of his duties very early, and Ali just became one of the lads then again, and he played. To his credit in captaining us, right, after 18 years in the First Division playing with Cyril Regis, Laurie Cunningham, Brian Robson, Derek Statham, all them type of players, and you think, wow. And he was a shining example, really, to all the lads of where you had to be and what you had to do. And the good thing was that he did like a drink, so he let us go out for a drink now and again as well. So
he organised most of the drinks.
He was absolutely brilliant, wasn't he?
I mean, that's such a good point because people overlook Ali Robertson's role at the club. But for someone who'd played best part of 2 decades at the top level, to then have the motivation with a ragtag bunch of rejections, wannabes, whatever you want to call them, and sort of keep standards or try and raise standards.
I think we needed someone like that, didn't we?
Yeah.
We needed a figure where we actually, because Ali Robb was at West Brom whenever I was there. Whenever the first day I walked into West Brom, Ali Robb was one of the first ones to speak to me and says, "What are you doing here?" No, I didn't know. He says the hard work starts now. I remember that to this day, and great, you know what I mean? So we had someone to look up to then. Ali had actually done something in the game, whereas we were all trying to do something in the game. So Ali was a leader of us, socially fantastic, but on the pitch, whenever he needed to point the fingers and tell us what to do, Ali was there to do it, and we respected that. And I think that was really, really important to all of us.
So the 86-87 season was when the two of you first played together down in the 4th Division, and it was Wolves' first full season in the 4th Division. So arguably, I mean, I would say as a fan that the Division 3 season was worse because Wolves was still going down and it just felt like it would never stop. I mean, at least when you got to the 4th Division, you knew it'd stop because there was no relegation in those days, and you could sort of think, well, at least it might plateau and bottom out here. But of course, it didn't because there was Chorley in the FA Cup, which of all the people, Mutchy, to play for Wolves that day, you touched on it. You were probably the one that felt it most because you surely was a local team to you that you.
Oh, it killed me. I knew all them type of players, who they were and what the standard was. All they did was have a real go, and whereas us lads were lost, I think there was 2 replays or 1 or 2, and I think we lost at Burden Park in the end, if I remember rightly, Bolton's ground. But I scored against them in one of the games. I think that might have been a draw before a replay.
Yeah, they drew 2 games, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. It was just an absolute embarrassment, because what that really comes down to is there's 2 sets of players. Arguably, them players who play for Wolves are slightly better than them lads, but not a great deal, because standards, we're only so much. The gap's gone huge now, hasn't it, between the top flight and underneath. Well, they're all cracking players and fit, and they play, as I say, they all play on good pitches. But the gaps weren't that massive. But their attitude compared to our attitude was just top of the class, the bottom of the class. And that's why they beat us. And it was one of the most embarrassing things. And, it's like anything. I'd like to put that in a box and forget about it and never ever talk about it in my life. And I'll avoid doing that as much as I can. But you have to be honest and say, well, there were the bare facts. That's what actually happened. And there's the reason why you say, well, fight or flight. You can either fight and try and be something, or you can say, well, I'm going to go back to that because they're just as good as us, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So, I suppose if you don't have disappointments, you won't enjoy the good times as much as you did in the end, because obviously we had some great times, and we were very fortunate in the end that we were part of the group. We were part of the club itself, Wolverhampton Wanderers. What a massive club, right? But at the time, I went there thinking, well, knowing they were a massive club, but turning up, looking at the situation and going, oh my God, what's going on here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you think of the likes of John Richards, Kenny, all them guys that played when they were
Only a couple of years earlier as well.
And that's right, Andy Gray was scoring for Wolves, although he wasn't there long. He scored in the final, didn't he?
Yeah, in 1980, yeah.
And there you go. So that's how recent it was that they were a credible First Division side, and all of a sudden they were where they were. But, that's part of history, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, it is. It's funny, as a fan, all these provincial towns around England stick out for me for different reasons, and it's all because of Wolves. And another of those is Scarborough. I was wrong earlier because I said there was no relegation to non-league football, and of course there must have been relegation because Scarborough
They came up, yeah.
They came up and got promoted first day of the 1987 season.
Yeah.
Can we laugh about it now? It's a long time onwards. Wolves fans wrecked the place, didn't they?
Well, Johnny, whoever made the fixtures that year needs to be absolutely lined up against the wall and shot, really, because, and I shouldn't really say that, but honestly, well, I've just said it, yeah.
You just said it.
But no,
it's a bit strong, isn't it?
Because first game of the season, their first home game.
Yeah.
Right, obviously they've done their ground up and all that sort of stuff, preparing for the league, close to the seaside. Right, the Wolves fans were going to go up in their thousands to the seaside, whether they got tickets for the games or not. They didn't really mind. You know what it was like whenever they travelled. They travelled en masse, didn't they? And then we come into the ground to the game, and the game kicks off, and all hell's breaking loose on the terrace, and it was mad for the fixtures to be done that way with regards to Scarborough, because it spoiled their first day out, really. Because I remember a voice coming over the tannoy, and there must have been the secretary of the club or whatever, and him saying over the tannoy, this was halfway through the first half, would the Wolves fans please get off the top of our new stand?
Oh, God.
Right, and that's
it is bad, isn't it?
It was horrendous, and obviously the lad fell through the roof as well, and he was at the end of the game, he was sitting outside the ground on the wall with a neck brace and a pair of crutches, right, and he was begging. All his mates have gone home, right, and he was begging Keith Pearson at the time, Graham Turner and all, could he get a lift back on the coach? And we said no. Well, they said no, and he was left there. And we were looking back, and he's just sitting there, honestly, with the crutches and the neck brace on. It was an unbelievable day, a mad day for the fans. It should never really happen with a fixture scenario, but I do remember coming out of
any game would have been difficult though, wouldn't it? I suppose.
But their first game, Mutchy, and bringing the Wolves fans up to the seaside.
I mean, you could have picked any opposition for their first game, because all the Scarborough fans would have turned up.
Yeah, but Wolves fans were always going to go up on the Friday night, and it was,
when we played Torquay away, they had about 25 linesmen on the, didn't they? Remember, they were all on the pitch on
that was
the
just
line,
before my time.
and they were asking them, "Were you not there that day?"
No, I wasn't there.
25 Wolves fans on the pitch.
At least they're on the pitch, standing right next to the linesman, and the police were looking at them. They didn't know what to do, and everything. You're looking at it, you're going, and they were just. There's too many of them. They were uncontrollable at times, but not in a nasty way.
Well, there was a lot of
enthusiastic.
it was enthusiasm, because there was a sense that if we're going to be down in the 4th division, we're going to go to these places at least
and take over.
And
that's what
that Scarborough thing with the fan who, I mean, for younger listeners, there was a fan. Quite a lot of fans got on the roof of the main stand, and one of them was jumping on the corrugated iron roof and just went straight through it and landed on the terrace. But I mean, I've spoken to people who knew him. They actually said he probably had that much to drink. He landed quite softly, and as you say, you think
probably landed in a couple of other people.
He's then discharged himself from hospital with a brace and crutches and come back.
He was sitting outside. It was unbelievable. It was.
The gaffer wouldn't give him a lift, right? Because he said he was a pain in the neck.
But remember when we came out at the start of the second half, right? We'll come out, right? And I'm playing down the far side, away from the tunnel. And I've gone across, and they've raided the tuck shop up in the corner, the Wolves fans, and thrown everything from the tuck shop onto the pitch down the left wing. And I've had to help clear drinks, hot dogs, Kit Kats, everything. I was there for 2 or 3 minutes clearing the pitch before they could actually helping others clear the pitch before they could actually get it started.
Get the game going.
It was just a mad time. Time.
They were mad days, and obviously there was a big stadium ban for Wolves fans from away matches after that. Operation Growth, which was get rid of Wolverhampton's troublesome hooligans. I always like that. What's a non-troublesome hooligan? Why did they have to call it troublesome hooligans? I mean, but there you go. A lot of the time in those days as well, I was only a kid, and my old man wouldn't take me into the away end at those games. I remember going to places like Chester City, Wigan, and we always went in the home end because he was saying that the away ends were just too rough. It was great how many Wolves fans travelled, but it must have been quite intimidating as well when, you know, arriving en masse in these relatively small towns and just taking it over for a day.
And if they're ever challenged, they were never going to back down either.
No.
That type. But you mentioned about whenever they were banned as well. We played Man City in the Cup.
Yeah.
I think just a couple of games after that, and it was a 6-game ban.
League Cup game.
Pulled up outside Main Road, and we knew a few of the fans and all this sort of stuff. And all you can see, 33 of the fans that we know, and they've all got Man City scarves on, right? And they're all waving at the coach like this, you know, putting the thumbs up at the coach like this, you know, as if no one's going to know, you know. And then I actually scored right in the last few minutes, right? 1-2-1, and there's a massive cheer goes up in the stadium at the time. You know, it was just unbelievable. They find ways to get the games like, but not in the same.
They all do, don't they? They all do.
But it was good times.
It was, and of course that season it absolutely took off. 87-88, winning the league, winning the Sherpa Van Trophy, and with pretty much the same bunch of players, really. I reckon probably about 14 players might have been used that season. Not many more. It was pretty much a settled team, and it just clicked, didn't it?
Yeah, didn't it? Yeah. It was great. I remember saying to Gary Pendry, I says, Gary, I'm telling you now, when we won the 4th division, he says we're going to win the league next season, in the next league, and he looked as if to say, I says, I'm telling you we will, because you see it, don't you, in football over the years. If you get a good side together and you got the right attitude and you get good momentum, it can take you a long way. And, you know, within the side, we had a couple of lads like Bully, you could bang a few in and a few players that could create the opportunities and solid, experienced defence. So, you had to be a good side to beat us. You had an odd bad day, of course you did. We lost some games where you think, how we'd lose that, because it never even crossed your mind. When you went out, you used to think you knew you were going to win, because we were that good at that time. It's a credit to all the players that they never took the foot off the gas for 1 minute. It was just right, hunger again to go and win again, and that's what we did.
I think the first year when we won the 4th, I look at the side now that we had then, and the players that we had on that side were better in the level.
Yeah.
So what you need to do then really is get them organised, right, which the gaffer did. We worked off a system, 4-4-2, worked their socks off. We worked out it, 2 or 3 times a week, really, with regards to the shape and all that sort of stuff. So everybody knew their jobs, and we had a group of lads who wanted to play with each other and play for each other, and that was vital with how we got the bandwagon going, really. The 4th division was fantastic, was steamrollered, and Mutchy's right. Going into 3rd division, there wasn't much difference between the two levels at that time.
Right.
Well, we didn't feel that there was. There might have been the odd side was slightly better in the 3rd, but we knew that Mutchy, Bully scoring goals. We did actually work really hard defensively, keeping clean sheets. Kendo doing well for us and stuff like that. So we knew that we were going to get a reasonable season the following season as well, and as it turned out, it was fantastic. And going to Wembley twice along the way as well, and all that time, the first 3 or 4 seasons was just amazing, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Went to Wembley twice in 87, 88. The second time was obviously the Sherpa Van Trophy. But again, this one might be interesting for a younger audience. There's a European ban on clubs playing because after the Heysel Stadium disaster. Yeah. And the Football League were forever trying to come up with little quirky things. And they had some centenary celebrations in 88. Yeah. And they thought it'd be a good idea to get a few teams from each division 1, 2, 3 and 4 playing in a big celebration tournament at Wembley. And the idea was that over a qualification period, it might have been over January, February, whatever, the best performing teams of each division then went into this big pot for this huge celebration at Wembley. And obviously they wanted to fill Wembley and the rest of it. There was about, how many turned up at Wembley for it? About 10,000? God knows how many. If that.
Not a lot of people there, was
there?
And
Wolves were drawn in their very first game as a 4th Division club against the reigning champions, Everton. And if people haven't seen this, Denno, you scored one of Wembley's greatest ever goals.
Thanks, Johnny. Better known that I scored in the Sherpa Van as well.
Even better than that. About 30 yards out against the greatest keeper in the world.
Well, listen, Mutchy said if it had been a pork pie, you'd have caught it, you know what I mean? But no, do you know, we were in such a role then, and obviously we qualified for that. And to go to Wembley, whenever I was growing up as a kid, Wembley was, you know, there was something that you saw on telly, you know what I mean? And you watched the FA Cup final all the time, and the hairs in the back of your neck was standing up every time you watched the FA Cup final. So to actually go to it, and yes, it was centenary, the crowds weren't big, but to actually go to a place like that and play on that surface against a good side as well, Everton at that time, was fantastic for us, really. It was a nice break from the league. We drew 1 each in the game. Unfortunately, we lost in penalties. No, I can't remember who scored actually and who missed the penalties. But
were they only 20-minute games as well? Were they only 20-minute games?
20-minute games.
20 minutes each way. It was Gary Bellamy's fault. If he'd have scored a penalty, we'd have gone through.
Anyone else missed?
And he missed it, right? And then this lad went up and he great keeper that Neville Southall, you know. I tell you what, I used to think he was a bin man, but what a keeper.
Mutchy, I beat him from 30 yards and you couldn't beat him from 12, mate. What's going on?
You're right. Sozza. Yeah. Unfortunately, Neville saved a penalty from me, so I've missed a penalty at Wembley. But you know, it's not the worst thing you ever say to anyone, is it?
No, it's not. And didn't you all have a big night out afterwards or something like that? Did you hang around afterwards, watch any of it, or just get back off home? I mean, we went setting the crowd. Early. It was a 2-day tournament, and if you're out by Saturday lunchtime,
we were on the way home.
Well, that was the plan. You know what I mean? So we have a good weekend.
We weren't going to win it anyway, so we got out early. But I think we had a couple of beers, watched a couple of the other games, and then hit the coach then.
Yeah, I can't remember much about celebrations there. Obviously, after the Sherpa Van one.
Let's talk about the Sherpa Van, because that was the one when there were 80,000 at Wembley for that day, and it was emblematic of Wolves' return. Even though we were still in the 4th Division, we were back, weren't we?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. Unbelievable. I mean, obviously, as a kid, Liverpool's home ground was Wembley at one stage. They were never away from the place, so we were always going down to Wembley. It was unbelievable. But then to actually be on a coach going to Wembley, going down Wembley Way, and you're actually playing, and there's 50,000 Wolves fans at the ground, and obviously Wembley Way is aligned, and great credit to Burnley as well. They had 30-odd thousand there. So it balanced it out to a degree. So it made for what you could arguably say is a real cup final. Although it was a real final, but it wasn't actually the FA Cup final, if you know what I'm saying. So, but that experience is just something that you'll never forget. And what was great for all the lads, all the families were there. It was well looked after by the club. Everybody was looked after properly. We stopped at the, I think it was called Cockfosters, the place of this unbelievable hotel, and we had the party there afterwards, didn't we, and all that. So it was just an unbelievable day, and to play in front of 80-odd thousand at Wembley, in front of your home supporters, who these were the ones that obviously we didn't get 50,000 every week, but the loyalty had come back from a lot of them, and obviously it's like anything. When it's a chance to go down to Wembley, all the family goes down, so it was a great experience both with the town and obviously us as players and our families and all the management staff involved. It was just an amazing experience that you wouldn't really dream of, really, and it suddenly comes about and you pinch yourself, and great days, never forgotten.
definitely. And then you both score as well, and to score twice there, as you said, Denno. Goal for you, Mutchy, making up for that penalty missed last time round. To score at Wembley, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not bad actually, is it? It's actually Bully laid it on for me, which is very very rare indeed. Wasn't it? Right. I don't know if he meant it, to be honest. I'm sure he shot really, but yeah. But to score, score at Wembley, Christ, and in truth for myself, I never even thought about that. You get carried away with the occasion, I don't know, and you don't really soak it all in. And we've all heard that sayings before, but never thought I've got to score today at Wembley. You just want to win, but scoring, then it all evolves, and you go, "Wow, it's unbelievable! I've scored at Wembley." And then Robbie scored a cracker, and great result.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, really. You go to win the game first and foremost. That's what it's all about. But I think whenever you look back on it over the years, and you have scored, then everybody say, "Oh, it doesn't matter who scores," but it does matter who scores, Johnny. You know what I mean?
Definitely matters.
and the thing for the memories that I have now of playing at Wembley and scoring at Wembley, Mutchy scoring at Wembley, those are fantastic memories. And honestly, people still come up to me and mention it, even to this day, and mention the goal, right? So yes, you want to win the game of football. The crowd that was there, being a kid, growing up, watching the Wembley scenario all the time, and dreaming of maybe even going to the place, but to play in it in front of a full house. And the Wolves fans on the bank behind where we come out of the tunnel and stuff. Yeah. It's just amazing. I've got photographs back at home, and it shows us coming out of the tunnel, and all the Wolves fans behind us, right? And I've got the biggest smile on my face ever. It's one of my favourite photographs, really. And it's just as if, oh, this is great. This is, you know what I mean? I've always wanted to do this, but that's kind of the memories that you have, isn't it? Really, and to experience it, to win the game. And we were on such a roll at the time as well with regards to getting promoted as well. It was just an amazing time. And as much as you said, the club looked after us fantastic that time as well. They really did. They treated us absolutely first class, and the families as well. So it was fantastic. Yeah,
it was. It was brilliant. The gold and black that day was just off the scale. It's part of the reason why I'm a Wolves fan, I guess. My old man's not. I'm a Wolves fan because my dad was a Wolves fan. He's not from here. But the first game he went to was Tottenham Wolves. And it was the gold and the black that he just stuck out for him. And then the name Wolves as a kid, he was only sort of 8 or 9 years old. And then he moved to Liverpool, met my mum, settled, and sort of the Wolves and the gold and the black was all part of it. And when we were in the 80s before this rise, that was one of the few things I held on to. I love that shiny gold kit, and I love the black trim it had. But that day at Wembley, there was just gold and black just everywhere. It felt like that. I don't know what it was like playing.
Well, that's it. That's what I was trying to describe about Wembley Way. When you go in the cup finals to watch United or Liverpool or Arsenal, all these teams, and you see it year in, year out, especially when you're a kid watching it on the telly and all that type of stuff. To actually be there playing for a club, and the support was just frightening. And to see you going down Wembley Way, see the gold and black, it was just, you really felt as you were part of the DNA of the club, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
I've always felt that. The day I left Wolves was the saddest day of my life in football. Circumstances happen and you end up moving on. And I found it hard when I first left because it's all anew, really, in the respect that opportunity knocks. You take your opportunity. And fortunately for me, the Wolves fans were great with me. They didn't get on my case. They all have a moan like every player, of course they do. I was lucky. You do your best and try hard, and obviously that's a big help, of course. But they supported me tremendously well. So when I left the club, it was a big wrench for me because I came at the time when they were struggling, and by the time I'm leaving, they were sort of allegedly going on to better things at that time, and I felt I should have been part of that. And so, that's your reflections because of maybe days like when we played at Wembley and you see all the supporters there in all the colours and supporting you the way they did. It was phenomenal, and it's just like any club, I suppose, any city, when the city are doing well, they're out back and reinforced, but Wolves were quite unique like that, I suppose.
Yeah, and in many respects as well, it would have been a fairy tale if Wolves had gone all the way back up to the top, but they didn't. They sort of plateaued in the second division, which later became the Championship. So for all that you probably felt you were missing out on something, you didn't. You were part of the Wolves that got the club back, got the town its pride back. And even, Denno, you stayed on, didn't you? But it was sort of, and there were some near misses that you were involved in as well. But, you know, when you look, and good times, even though it was a bit of a pain in the arse that Wolves couldn't get out of the second division. It was that period, probably 86, 87 to 90, that was really the sort of, I would call it that sort of that golden age of
the frustration though, John, let me just say though, was that I have no doubt in my mind that we'd have got promotion into the first division with the squad we had, with the odd player being added, like it always was. From League 4, when Robbie Wood turns up one day, Tomo turns up one day,
Vino coming
turns
in
up one day, and so players do come and go. You know, they lose the mojo, or they're not good enough, and they move on, and all that type of thing. But our team was well good enough to get promoted from the second division with the team that we had that went up, bar one or two additions. But we just had a little bit of delusions of grandeur, I personally believed, where they thought we're going to bring big name players in, right? We're going to pay them a load of money and we're going to get promoted. And I rest my case.
Never quite happened.
I think there was a big change too quickly at that point. And Mutchy, we spoke about it before, really. When
Mutchy left, what year did you leave, Mutchy?
93.
93. So that summer they did have a big change around.
And listen, the lads who come in were great lads and all that sort of stuff. But I do feel, I remember just, you know, going on that point, there was lads coming into the club at the time, and myself, Mutchy, Tomo and Keith were left out of the team photograph at the start of that season. Right, now we had played so many games the season before, blah blah blah, you know, and I kept thinking about it and since, really, and it's all right changing and doing what you want to do, and if you're supplying funds or whatever, you can bring players in and do all that, right? But it's very hard to replace the heart of the club.
Yeah.
And I thought that from 86, 87, right, we had built the heart of the club at that point, and with the players that had come in, had been added to. We've got 2 promotions. We've been to Wembley twice. This new stadium was built. And then all of a sudden, they wanted to take a different path, really. Now, I don't know what the role of the gaffer was in that. Maybe his hands were tied a little bit with regards to players coming in and the money that was going to be spent and money that was going to be thrown at players. Maybe that was the case with regards to him. But I did feel there was too much of a change attempted at that point. We could have easily gone on and got promoted. And that's the one thing really that narks at me, really, that we didn't have the opportunity to take that forward at that time. And it also narks at me that I didn't, in my time, the 10 years that I was there, I didn't take the next step, you know, at the next time to get them into the Premiership and just fulfil a dream for myself as well as, and I'm sure Bully and Tom will probably feel the same way, you know. But we you know, at that time, too much of a change, really, and Mutchy's touched on that as well. I felt.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. Let's fast forward it too, because let's fast forward it to the current Wolves, because we can talk loads over the coming episodes about more of your playing days and your roommates and all the rest of it and those times. But we have got the opportunity with this episode in particular. It's going out during an international break, just to look at the current Wolves, and you've watched them from afar, on and off, ever since. Would you say, Mutchy?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, I'm always looking out to see how they're doing. I come down very now and again. They've improved immensely as a club regarding the status in the Premier League, the type of personnel they bring in. Some of the players we've had playing over the last 5 years, they've been tremendous players. Not so much up to speed with the new lads that have just come in. I can't spell half the names, I suppose. That's
it's tricky, that, isn't it?
It's very tricky. I always say to my pal, don't even try and say the names. Wait till the commentator says it, and then you know how it's pronounced. Like Ekatike instead of what all the Liverpool lads were saying. You know what I mean? It was quite funny, really. So always looking out for the results as me first team, bar me team when I was a kid growing up, like everyone had, you know, type thing. Always in my heart. But I was, even we got beat the other day against Everton, and Everton played particularly well, I thought. You could see lots of signs in the Wolves team that there are going to be no rollovers. They've had a poor start for a couple of 3 games, whatever it is. If you don't get points on the board, you know, it's black and white, people say. You know, it's not a good start. And and there's been lots of change recently, and I don't know the personnel too well, if I'm honest, of that they've brought in. However, what I saw on the pitch the other day, I can suggest a few little tweaks and be absolutely fine.
Well, that's quite a positive view, because a lot of Wolves fans are getting a bit edgy at the moment. They've had a couple of seasons now. I mean, there was the great start to the time in the Premier League under Nuno, and then it sort of tailed off a bit. And it's the Wolves fans' gripe at the moment, Denno, is that the team is not really improving. It's selling its best players every year and replacing them with ones that aren't quite as good as those left. And if you keep doing that, you will eventually flirt with relegation one time too many, and that could be it.
The problem that you have, Johnny, unless you're getting into Europe every year, then you're going to have to, you are selling your better players, because the better players want to take that step up to Europe, want to play at a higher level, want to win things, really. So, yes, they've brought in some fantastic footballers, really have. I've enjoyed watching them over the period of time. The Nuno time was the best time, really. When you look back at the side that they had then with Moutinho and Neves and Jimenez up front, it was an absolutely fantastic team. You could name the team, and they played nearly every week. He worked off a small squad as well. Hardly ever anybody injured. And then COVID came along whenever they were in the Europe scenario, and I think they could have gone the distance with the Europe scenario if all that thing hadn't happened at that point. But that's the way it was. But as time goes on, whenever you set your levels of getting into Europe at that time, your fans always want to get there again, don't they?
That's the thing.
That's the level that they want to get at.
Well,
so whenever you struggle like they did last season, then the fans are querying what's going on. And yes, they've sold two of the best. Cunha was always going to go.
He was always
going to go.
yeah.
Right, he was going from last January. Aidan Nuri, I think he's such a good player that I think he was going as well. But the one that I think they probably missed the most is Semedo. Right, the experience of Semedo, he looked to be a common head whenever he was made captain at the end of last season. So he was the one I would have said keep him as much, and obviously it was his decision to move on, so you lose out there. But it's very difficult to replace these people, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As I said before, if you're not in Europe, people want to play in Europe. They want to play, as I say, win trophies in that scenario. So it's very difficult. You can chase people and you can get close to signing people, and then somebody else comes in. So they've signed 7 people, or 6, 7.
Yeah, it's
you just hope that most of those hit the ground running and get up to speed as quickly as possible. They know exactly what squad they're working with now. It's the end of August.
Yeah.
It's all settled now. Work with that squad and make things better. And I think they'll be absolutely fine as well.
What you have to do,
very optimistic.
I think so, Johnny, though. What I think is you've got to hold your breath a bit, because they've come a long way over the last 5 years, saying the quality of player that's come into the club, right? And arguably you could say that, the squad, let's say, is not as good as it was, say, 3 or 4 years ago. And that's more than understandable. But the majority of the clubs, nothing's ever changed. The majority of clubs in the Premier League are selling their players if they got good players. So what it's been by Wolves is good recruitment to get lots of good players in that they've ended up selling on. Now, although we don't like that, because you want to keep all the best players, there's going to be transitional periods, and I think this is a big one for Wolves now. But I look at some of the players that are out on the pitch, right, and I don't think they're going to have any problem. It's a bit scary at times as supporters, because you think, if this just dips a little bit more and a little bit more, it's going to be serious. Could be a serious situation. But I believe strongly that over the next 3 months, Wolves will start to click together. The players, like the centre half, who did great last year. What's his name?
Emmanuel Agbadou. Yeah,
Agbadou.
he did. He's had a shaky start.
He's had a very shaky start,
shaky.
hasn't he? But he will settle again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's just been a lot of change gone on in the club with the personnel. And you look at like Semedo leaving the club, it's a travesty, really. And whose fault is that?
Well,
when you think about it,
his contract was wound down, and it was, I think,
it shouldn't have been.
I'll throw my 2 penneth worth into this. I think Semedo, once he was out of contract, did the right thing, because I don't think Wolves are as attractive a club as they were when he first signed for them. And the problem they've had, or the problem they're going to find, is that I understand your point exactly about trying to sign good players and then they increase in value, and then a club of Wolves' size ultimately has to sell them because they're not in Europe. But I do think they just need to maybe push a little bit more. This transfer window is a fascinating one, because losing three big players like Kunya Aitnouri and Semedo, who we all agree is probably, going to be arguably one of the biggest misses. It was my understanding that there was going to be a bit of a reset this summer, and it was going to be quite transformational. They get rid of the sporting director, Matt Hobbs. They brought in Domenico Tetti as Vitor Pereira's sort of football director. And there were big meetings at the start of the summer between all the football management. And I thought, well, they're going to go for a big strategy here. Maybe, they're going to sit down and the strategy is going to be geared towards what Pereira needs, and there's going to be a certain type of player comes in. And then you fast forward, and it's taken a while. Most of the signings came in late. And you look about it, and it looks, for whatever reason, it looks a little bit haphazard. Some of the signings that come in. I'm not writing them off. I think your optimism is a nice way to look about it, because there is a lot of pessimism out there at the moment. And I know Jeff Shee, the chairman, did an interview where he described it as a good transfer window, and I think that'll probably wind up the entire fan base, because they look at it and see, well, Cunha's not being replaced, Semedo's not being replaced. But I want to pick out 4 players, bear with me, who could be key players. The first is Fer Lopez. Right, he signed from Celta Vigo, 19 million quid, right at the start of the window. I think he's quite an imaginative player, and he could break the lines. So if he settles in quickly, he's the sort of creative player that might just turn out to be a real find. The other one is John Arias from Fluminense. He was one of the players of the Club World Cup. The problem is he's not had a summer break, so he's been playing all summer. So he might need time to adjust. If he plays like he did at the Club World Cup, we've got a gem. If he plays like he has in a couple of games so far, that could be something that just doesn't work. The third one is talking about ones you can't pronounce. I might struggle here. Tolo Arakadare. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Brilliant.
Big fella from Genk. A proper centre forward. Big, strong fella. If he ends up playing up front with Larson, I can see them going...
Do you think they can play in a partnership, John?
Well, the way Pereira might look at it is, if he goes with the 3 at the back and the wing-backs, and they're a bit worried about the cover in midfield because they haven't got enough cover, I could see them getting a bit direct.
They'll go more direct.
Yeah.
It seems to be a bit of a flavour at the minute, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Where
I can see them going direct.
A lot of teams that have got a lot of good players, and they think passing the ball around the way forward, and they're getting caught out too much. So unless you're the top like the cities that who can play out the way they do, you sometimes you've got to cut them accidents out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And if he's got this 6'6" centre forward along with Larson, it suggests that they'll go a bit more direct, and it might help them settle down, because it's like anything. When you win a game or two,
it does.
There's a different smile on people's faces.
This international break has come at exactly the wrong time, because it's just left fans festering and who are unhappy with the window, and now they're thinking Wolves have brought this on themselves and whatever. So you're right. It does. It only
3
takes
games, isn't it?
3 games. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's 3 games.
I think a lot of it as well, John, with people come from different countries and stuff, their family might still be back in the country they come from. You're trying to maybe learn a different language and all that stuff. They might be in a hotel. So they're all trying to settle down into trying to get their best football played.
Yeah.
Do you know, I
That's
came
a
off
good
the
point.
boat from Northern Ireland, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
takes a while to settle
I couldn't
down.
understand the language over here either, mate.
Robbie only came
know
on a
what I
boat,
mean?
you know what I mean? I mean, they're flying miles, he only came on a boat. Took him
boat from Northern
20 minutes, you know what I mean?
It just takes people time to settle down.
does.
And for you to play your best football is whenever you're happy.
It does.
And if it means bringing your family over and all that sort of stuff. People have only come a couple of weeks ago, so
Yeah.
that'll take a bit of time. So once I agree with Mutchy, once that's all sorted and done,
Yeah.
and it settles down, the squad settles down, get a couple of results, I honestly believe it'll be fine as well.
They will settle down.
I love your optimism. Can I talk about my 4th player? I've only mentioned 3.
Yeah. Well, I thought you were
Who's
struggling
your
with the
third one again, Joe?
I thought you were struggling with the language. Could you give us that name again? The third one, yeah.
Tolo Arakadare.
Oh,
Arakadare.
showing off now, isn't he?
It's only because I'm reading it on a piece of paper. I've probably got it wrong, but I'll keep with it. Arakadari and Larson. It's going to be the new Bull and Mutch. Who knows? Who knows?
Hey, he'll have to be good, won't he? Steve-oo?
Number 4, Ladislav Krejci. He's my other of the signings. He's the 4th one that I've got the hope for. Come from Girona. He's a Czech utility player. Every squad needs a utility player. Defender, can play all across the defence and maybe sit in midfield. So I've got high hope for him. There's one other area that I'm a bit worried about, and that goes back to all the Ali Robertson conversations. It's leadership. When in the Nuno areas we had Conor Cody,
Yes, yeah.
Who was a natural leader, and Ruben Neves was sort of another one
Yeah.
who had great leadership skills. I don't see a lot of leaders out there. And what's it like on a pitch? I think it's important. I think you need leadership.
I think the leadership is more in the changing room and off the field than on the pitch. I think on the pitch, you know what your job is. You get on with it. You get bollocked by the person standing next to you. Then they'll say to me, hey, come on, lad, and whatever, vice versa, all across the park. So we weren't particularly listening to Ali Robb telling us what to do on the pitch.
Yeah.
It's how you're behaving off the pitch and what you need to do to improve and keep improving for different reasons, because we all know it's dog eat dog. Players came and went at Wolves in my time over 8 years, like they come and like you never believe, and Robbie longer, and that's how it rolls. So I think you need a skipper for off the field. On the field, I don't think it's that important. You could have your goalkeeper as if he was a cracking keeper, right? Which I think the keeper's quite decent, isn't he?
I think he has.
Yeah, I like the keeper. I know he's had his critics for various points. I like Jose Sarr.
He's quite steady, I suppose.
I think the biggest thing with Sarr really is whenever they try and pass out from the back,
he's
he
not
makes
got great
people a little
footwork.
bit anxious, doesn't he? And
That's why they're going direct.
But shot saving and stuff like that, I think he's a decent keeper.
I agree.
But I do think that they'll maybe change the system a little bit, because they have got caught out a few times. There's two of the goals against Everton which were very avoidable, right? And whenever you stop doing that with regards to giving the ball away in your last third, then you've got a chance of winning games of football. Because if you're conceding 3 against a decent side in the Premiership, you're not winning games of football. So they might change that.
Well, if teams are playing well against you, and you're not playing well at the back, i.e. keeping possession the right way to actually find your time and space to get up the park, it's a recipe for disaster. And it's proved over the early games that that's the case, i.e. the Everton game you're talking about, Robbie. So, get a captain off the park who actually can communicate with everyone and get them all to get their heads banged together, if you understand what I mean. On the park, for me, it looks to me as if they're going to change the way they play to a degree to sort of secure themselves a little bit more and be not exposed as much as they have been. And the likes of Larson, if this new lad, the big fella up front, it's the ground running. A few goals put smiles on faces, doesn't it?
I love that. Right, we're going to wrap this episode up, because if you're listening to it on your commute, you've probably had time to get halfway across Europe by now. So we're going to wrap it up. The podcast, we haven't got a jingle. You might have noticed we came straight on chatting. If anyone listening, if any Wolves fans are out there, fancy sending us a jingle that we can use, send us a jingle. That's the first thing I'm going to ask for. And the second thing we're going to ask for is a sponsor. We would love some sponsorship, because we're busking our way through this at the moment. You can get hold of us on email, mutchydenno@outlook.com. That's easy. mutchydenno@outlook.com. Or Instagram, because the lads have moved into the digital age. And that is @mutchydenno.
What's he still writing letters?
I'm told we've got TikTok and Facebook, but our media and marketing guru is not present at the moment.
I'm not selling me typewriter.
She will keep us up to date with what's going on there. And one final thanks as well to WCR-FM. We're in their brilliant studios at Manda House recording this. We're going to record a few episodes and hopefully you'll enjoy them over the coming weeks. But for now, thanks very much for listening to Mutchy and Denno. And thanks, lads.
Cheers, Johnny.
Cheers, Johnny. Thank you.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.